Hello everyone, welcome to Foreigner Farming in the Philippines. So today, weather permitting, I guess we're going to do it whether it rains or not. It's kind of been, I don't know, sprinkly, I guess you could say, all morning. We're going to drain and harvest this pond. So we're in the process of digging out this canal. I'm a little out of breath from bringing that box of ice down here. Nerio was here digging this out, and I guess he's on break. He could even be on lunch break, I don't know. But we're going to continue digging this. This all needs to go down more here. So we're going to do the same thing in pond 2 here that we did in pond 3. And we're going to drain it, transport the fingerlings up to the for sale tanks, harvest the sellable fish, and the breeders are going to go back into pond 1. Alright, well, there goes the release.
Paano na natin ito? Ano? Tuman?
We're saving some of that King Kong to put up into pond 1. The fish that are up in pond 1 had eaten everything that I'd put up there, so we're gonna move all that we can up there so that we have some in that pond. Hopefully we can get more in there than and it can grow faster than they can eat it. All right. I and everyone else am exhausted. We've got this one drained. There's still a bunch of fingerlings in there, but we're too tired to get them out. We still have the catch net in place here. It's still, as the pond drains, it's still going into there. So we'll still save some of them, but we're not going to go through there with a net or anything and fish them out. They're on their own. we moved up about 290 fingerlings that we put in the fingerling sail tanks. We saved 6 of the breeders and put them back in pond 1, and we moved about 150 fish, too small to sell but too big for fingerlings, and we put them in pond 1. And these are the last, the real small fry. We didn't even count those, probably 1,000 or so already. And like I said, 190 of the fingerlings. Plus what's in this bucket. I didn't count those either, but there's only 20 or 30 in there. So we're done with the harvest. We're going to be leaving very shortly to take these to a buy. Alright, well this is actually the next day, the next morning. I was just too wiped out last night after we got back from Ubai to finish up this video. I'm too tired in Ubai to finish it up anyway, and by the time we got back, I just wanted to make this little follow-up here and add it on as to what I have a clear, really clear idea of what we're going to do now. All these former ponds are going to be growing areas now. They're flat, they're contained, they're easy to irrigate. The soil is really nutritious, especially what used to be pond 2 here. The mud, the reason that it was so tiring for everyone yesterday is that mud was over the top of that net. It had, that harvest net, which was the idea that I had, that it would be much easier to harvest the fish if there was already a net, because running around in the pond with a net trying to net them free swimming in a pond was in itself an arduous task. And so I had the idea that we'll just set a net in it and pull the net up and harvest the fish. And that worked well the first couple times. But as this pond aged, and the mud, which is a mixture of mud and silt and fish crap, just got deeper and deeper and deeper. And that net is heavier than water, and it's really loosely compacted mud. It just kept working itself deeper and deeper and deeper between harvests down into the mud. And yesterday it was buried about 4 inches, 5 inches deep into the mud. You think it would still be easy to pull it out because it's loose mud, but it's not. Because what happens is there's a lot of snails in this, and the snails are bigger than the holes in the net, and so a snail gets caught in a square, and then the mud can't go through that. And that happens several hundred times when you're trying to pull the net out, and pretty soon you're just pulling a net full of mud, and it weighs hundreds of kilos. Harvesting, we got about 1.5 boxes of fish out of this yesterday, and harvesting that fish exhausted 5 people. It was an all-day thing. We just, I made up my mind about 6 weeks ago that we were going to abandon this. When we abandoned pond 4, I had it in my mind then, not 100% sure, but I had it in my mind that we were going to turn all these into grow beds. I had thought that we would leave pond 2 here for another several months, but as it worked out, we're just going to make it let it start drying out now, because it's just too hard to harvest the fish out of these ponds. It's just too hard. Dragging the nets around, you never get them all. Having the net in the bottom is too much. It's with the mud that collects over the net, it's too heavy to handle. It's too large of a pond to do it that way. But we still need the fish for we still need the fish to supply nutrients for the water, which is what we're going to use for irrigation. So that brings us back to pond 1 here. Now, we're never going to abandon pond 1 as a growing area. In fact, we're going to enhance it. As you can see, about where that stump there, that tree that got blown into the pond during the typhoon, where that stump is right there, the bank really starts to get high. So we won't have to go much further back that way than that stump. And this is a high bank here, and it goes higher quickly. So we won't have to do very much enhancement here at all. But right along there, about where Gina's garden begins there on that hill, we're going to heighten this roadway, this dam in between this pond and the fields, and we're going to heighten it about 2 feet. I don't want to dig down this pond. Really, I don't want to dig it down any, because I'm afraid we'll get into sand and then it won't hold water. We're right at sand right there in that corner when the bulldozer dug it out. So rather than dig this pond out, we're just going to make it deeper for 2 reasons. So that it'll hold more water. That 2 feet of water will increase its water capacity by about 1/3. And that way we'll be able to irrigate without the water getting so low that it endangers the fish. And what we're going to do, I don't know if we're going to have the ability to sex the fingerlings first, but we're going to intensely raise fish in here at some point. When we get the aeration a little more better, when I get the hormone for the sexing, we're gonna really raise some fish in this pond here. That water's probably gonna pretty much run like it's running right now. It's pretty much gonna run continuously, just like that, into this pond, 24/7, and that will facilitate water exchange. And this pond is most often it's just going to be in a process of filling back up from irrigation. And what we're going to do is we're going to put floating cages in here, about half the size of the ones we had before. The ones we had before were 10 by 20. We're going to make them 10 by 10 so that they're that much easier to handle. Look, I'm 60, Top Tie's 60, Nerio's, I think he just turned 50. And we're the main crew that is doing these harvests. And it wiped us out yesterday doing the harvest in pond 2. So we need a much easier way to do the harvests. A cage 10 by 10, we can put roughly 1,000 fingerlings in it, 1,000 to 1,200, and leave them in there for 4 months, 5 months, kind of depends. Harvest them out. They'll be about 3 per kilo size at that time. That's 300 plus kilos of fish. That's easily done with a 2-man, 3-man crew. The floating cages will be made so that the grow net will also double as the harvest net. So whatever floating cage is due to be harvested, we'll just pull it over to the side, pull the net out, and harvest the fish. And probably could get at least a dozen such floating cages in this pond, perhaps 15. Depends on how tightly we want to pack them in here. But if we had a dozen in here, that would facilitate the harvest about every 2 weeks. And I just think that is going to be the way to go. And that's what we're going to do moving forward. So what we got to do first is build up this, heighten this dam here. And that's going to happen after we finish the bottom fields and we prep these two former ponds as fields. And I have another idea for irrigation checks. You guys stay tuned for that. I think it's absolute genius on my part. You guys stay tuned for that. So, got a little more cleanup to do here from the harvest. We were just so tired yesterday evening, we just left everything. That net needs to be pulled out the rest of the way and stowed. Those boxes need to be put away somewhere. I've got a little more shoveling to do here to finish draining this pond. As you can see right next to the dam here, it's a low area, and that's because we pulled a lot of soil out of here and put it up for this bank. So we're going to have to, I was going to say we were going to have to add a little bit of soil, but it depends on how deep the actual water is out there. And I'm thinking it's only about an inch deep. I'll have a better idea once this drains, once I get it fully drained. So it's as clearly as I can lay it out. You guys stay tuned. We're going to raise a lot of vegetables and a lot of tilapia. Thank you, everyone. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.